time for the friendly computer to become even friendlier. A while back I reviewed the Penultimate Cartridge for the Commodore VIC-20 by the Futurist 8-bit. It came with a load of games and RAM expansion of up to 35k, an absurd amount of memory to have in a VIC-20 and very useful when there aren't that many original RAM expansions around. And it lets you run games like Pentagorat, which have required the full amount of memory to run. It's a head over heels game, or head over heels style game, which we'll see a little bit later on. The cartridge was styled very attractively to look like it was made in 1983. Proper injection moulding, none of this 3D printed rubbish, and no bare boards either. But not content with producing this, there is a new version, the Penultimate Plus. And for a limited time, it's available in this rather attractive yellow and black casing. I'm guessing it's going to go back to the normal brown casing once this run of cartridges has been sold. The original cartridge was 4 megabits. This new cartridge is 8 megabits, which means there's a lot more software on there. But we'll come to that very, very shortly. Other than that, externally, the cartridge looks pretty much the same as the original. I believe the finished version comes in a cardboard case or wraparound case as well, looking a bit like the cheese and onion cartridge. The cartridge I've got here is a pre-release candidate, so things you may see on here may have changed for the finished version, but it's given me a month to actually test this thing and use it properly. It hasn't just plopped through the letterbox and I've just kind of stuck it on YouTube and gone, hey, here's a review of the Penultimate Plus. I've actually been using this thing for about a month. Not every day, but you know what I mean. Of course, the cartridge plugs into the back of the VIC-20. As before, yeah, the VIC-20 cartridge ports have a vice-like grip, but the cartridge is very well built, so you can pull it in and out fairly easily. You put the cartridge in, the machine starts up, and yes, you now get a fancy pants menu, which you control with the joystick. And before you had a menu, but it was very basic with the system font. And you get all these titles from the Futurist 8-bit. Bertie the Bull, Boulder Dan, Cheese and Onion. Yes, Cheese and Onion is on this cartridge. This is insane because that's a retail cartridge that's selling at the moment, and the Futurist 8-bit and Time Mouth have stuck the game on the cartridge, and presumably they're banking on people actually still wanting to buy physical copies. And as before, if you've got an SD2IEC, you can just make a selection on the menu, and yes, you're straight through to your SD2IEC to load from SD card. But we're not going to cover that because we did that before in the Penultimate cartridge. If you want to find out more about that, go and look at that review because we covered that extensively. Let's concentrate on what's different this time. As I said, the capacity of the cartridge is twice as large, so we've got more games on the cartridge, including a pretty complete collection of the Futurist 8-bit titles, including their brand new game, Rodman. And Rodman, named after Rod Hull, the founder and owner of the Futurist 8-bit, is a little Pac-Man character that runs around. Instead of power pills, you get bombs you can set off that you blow them off a little bit like Bomberman, basically, to blow up the aliens, and the mazes scroll into different screens, so you go through the entrances and you end up on a different maze. Think of it as Pac-Man / Bomberman / fast food Dizzy. A little bit of that, perhaps. It's a unique concept, and it's a brand new game from the Futurist 8-bit. It's quite enjoyable. And you also get Cheese and Onion, which, as I say, is... I find this amazing. I find this utterly amazing and baffling. It gives the cartridge brilliant value because Cheese and Onion is a full retail cartridge, fully packaged up, and it's a brilliant game for the VIC-20. And I genuinely cannot believe why they would give this away with this cartridge. It's excellent value, but it almost seems like giving away the crown jewels because surely you'd want people to also just buy the Cheese and Onion cartridge. I don't know. Either way, it makes this... if you haven't got a Cheese and Onion cartridge, it makes this excellent value for money. There are 9 Futurist 8-bit games on the cartridge, and we'll have a look at a few of them on here. You've got Pentagorat, which, as I said before, it's like a head-over-heels / Night Lord game for the VIC-20. It's really, really good. You can get this on tape. I believe this version on the cartridge in response to people like me moaning, has been made a little bit easier. Your energy lasts a little bit longer, which is good. It's a fantastic game, one worth owning. Spaceship -1, well, you are in control of a spaceship and you only have a thrust control, so you have to make your way through the landscape. There's no clever scrolling in the background, but the foreground scrolls very, very well indeed. Very simple game. It's like a basic iPhone game, really. Those kind of games you get for 99p. We press one control to press thrust. There was one little game you had to circle Uranus, I remember, on my iPhone. Not quite like this, but a single control game. Super Starship Space Attack, another game, very nice Spectrum style, and I say that in a complimentary fashion. Graphics here, and a nice sound, and nice scrolling here, and you go up and down, you collect things, and you shoot things, and yeah, it looks nice. It looks like a high-class Spectrum budget game, but with decent scrolling. Very, very enjoyable. And as I say, there's 9 Futurist 8-bit titles on the cartridge. It makes this really good value for money. Let's go look at the other games on the cartridge, because you've got about 50 or so games on here now. I'm going to look at a few of them. You can see the list here of what you're getting. Dragonfire by iMagic. And oh, it's like a Hunchback thing where you've got to run across a bridge but the other way and you avoid the flames. I assume they're flames. They're not, don't look like arrows. I think they are flames. So you jump through here and whoa, you've got to collect all the treasure while the dragon shoots fire at you. Oh, died there. Oh, that's gone very wrong. But yeah, you collect the treasure and then you run between the screens. It gets harder and harder and harder. Quite an enjoyable game. Tutankhamun, a game that had been recommended to me on the VIC-20 many times. Never got it running, but now here it is on the cartridge. And yes, you run around a tomb and you shoot things and you collect things and you get keys to go through doors. And there's many, many snakes after you, which remind me of snakes from another game. Possibly in the Atari a bit that I can't remember, possibly an Amstrad game as well. But this probably all predates it. It's probably just people's idea of what a snake should be like, I guess. There's different enemies spawn from different areas. The VIC has a fantastic port of Dig Dug, and here it is on the cartridge. And it has 2-player as well, but we're playing 1-player. And yes, look at this. You'd be going, is this really a VIC game? It looks fantastic. And indeed, it's pretty good. Very nice, faithful port of the arcade. That's slightly crushed down for the VIC's low resolution. But you're not going to complain too much because the VIC doesn't really have a massive screen resolution to play with. Cosmic Jailbreak, the game I played on my BBC Master a while back and I didn't know where it come from. And it's that game where the aliens come across from the side and they try to break out their alien mates in the middle. It's like a variation of Space Invaders, but it's quite good fun. Next game is Crater Raider, and I'm not going to review all the games on this cartridge, but look at just a few of these. And Crater Raider, it's a bit like Moon Buggy, except you're a person and you run across the surface, jumping over the craters, and asteroids come down and make more craters, although not in that case. And you have to jump all over them and get to the end of the level, and you get points for jumping over them. And mainly you just have to avoid the things coming up the screen and try not to run out of oxygen, which is currently counting down. This is level 1. A basic game, but a kind of variation on Moon Buggy, I guess. And I think that's more oxygen there. Yep, there we go. Oxygen's up to 139 now. Counting down fast. Tetris is a far newer game for the VIC-20. Not quite recent years, but nearly. I think it was 2000. And it's a faithful port of Tetris with the music. And, well, it's Tetris. What more do I need to say? Buck Rogers, and I apologise for this being crushed up one side of the screen. Couldn't work out how to centre the screen on this one. Because as you'll know, if you've used a VIC, you have to use the cursor keys sometimes to centre up the display when the game starts up, especially on a pound machine. And couldn't get this one to level up. But the first thing that strikes you about Buck Rogers is kind of a bit like Space Harrier. And you're flying down the landscape with all these things scaling towards you. These trees you have to avoid, you have to go between them. And occasionally aliens go past. And it's really nice. And for a VIC-20 game, I'd never thought I'd see a game like this on this system, really. But once you start to get into it, it's a very good arcade-style game on the VIC. Battlezone I covered before in the original Penultimate video. It's an amazing 3D vector game for the VIC-20. Just can't believe the system can actually do this. Limited longevity. But again, it's just technically impressive that the machine has it. Key Quest. Again, I'm crushed up one side of the screen because I couldn't work out how to center it. But there's lots of little aliens running around and you run around collecting keys and treasure. The usual thing, and you can shoot things, but it's all crushed up into this one screen. Seamus we covered before, and again is an absolute classic for the system. Not quite as good as the Vectrex version, because you have vectors and it's all very impressive, but very playable, and surprising this is on more 8-bit systems really. Pole Position, again a game I covered before, but very solid port for the VIC. You can't quite believe this is actually running on a VIC. No, okay, you're not going to play it over the Atari version or even the C64 version, but it's still very good. Aggressor is a Defender clone with massive sprites. Probably too big, to be honest. They're trying to go for a wow factor here. I haven't really enjoyed it, to be honest. The sprites are just a fraction too big and a little bit too flickering and just not quite smooth enough. Terror Guard. Really, you just basically shoot the aliens with these big, colourful sprites. I think you're not supposed to let the alien spaceship land. I haven't actually tried that, but you basically just have to shoot 3 enemy sprites on each screen to kill them, and you go on to the next level. So that's the Penultimate Plus cartridge. As you can see, there's more games on there than before, and we've just explored some of them. You get all those Futurist 8-bit games, including Cheese and Onion, which is insane. Talk about giving away the crown jewels. I mean, it's added value, certainly, but hope it doesn't impact the sales of their other games on the VIC-20, but insane value because you're getting about £50 worth of games, if not more, on the cartridge. If you got an existing Penultimate, are you going to throw it away and get a Penultimate Plus? Probably not. You might do, depending on how much you really want those games on the Plus. This isn't certainly obsolete by any means, it's just the Plus is better and has more on it. Think of it as product evolution when a new model comes out, say. Yes, the price is high, it's about £80, £79, around that figure. But as I say, getting all those Futurist 8-bit games, a proper injection moulded case, which is nice, but not cheap to produce. And it injects a whole new lease of life into VIC-20, especially the fact it's got all that RAM, which means you can load up pretty much any VIC-20 game you want, especially if you've got an SD2 IEC interface to take advantage of SD card loading. For VIC-20 owners, I can see this is pretty much still a no-brainer. For existing Penultimate cartridge owners, not so sure. You've got to make that judgment call.